Madden on the PlayStation 2 was just different. Soft Drink Sports has an entire video kind of talking about everything that the game doesn't have anymore that it used to have back on the PlayStation 2, and because of a change in engines and whatnot, some of those features were lost. I shouldn't even say some, a substantial amount of features were lost. I grew up playing Madden 2005, the one with Ray Lewis on the cover. I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and while I have no idea exactly how many hours I put into it because the game doesn't have a clock for that because it's not like an RPG, I got to imagine I put in 1,000+ hours into this game. All for a game that ironically I purchased because it was $1 at my local GameStop, because these older Madden games were notorious for being sold for something like $1 at GameStop, and it's still not uncommon to pay like $5 for an older Madden. I'm talking even like Madden 20 is probably going for about $5 these days, and Madden 21 is in the same ballpark, as well as the older PS2 titles with a few exceptions. So I didn't really, realize how recent of Maddens were released on the PlayStation 2. I made a video a few years ago talking about FIFA 14 and how that was released on the PlayStation 2. Ironic, because it was also on the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. But in the case of Madden, it got on PlayStation 2 releases all the way up to Madden 12. That's a game that's quite expensive these days. I think it's around $50 or $60 used, just because assumably there weren't a ton of copies printed. However, I did pick up at one of my local game stores a copy of Madden 11 for $5, and it does seem like, compared to Madden 12, Madden 11 is notoriously more common. I think it goes for something like 15 or 20 bucks on eBay. That's a little expensive for an old Madden, but you can probably find it for less locally, as it does seem like it's substantially more common than Madden 12. Really, any of these games after Madden 08 are roughly the same. They include the same features for the most part, and obviously they just have updated rosters. The gameplay is overwhelmingly the same. The playbooks have changed, but ultimately there's not a ton of added content from game to game. So really, if you get any of these from like Madden 08 on, you're getting a relatively similar experience. Beginning with Madden 09 on the PlayStation 2, however, the Super Sim feature was added, allowing you to sim, kind of through just one play, through a quarter, through a possession, giving you a lot more flexibility in terms of being able to speed up the gameplay. And that's something that really kept me from going back to Madden 2005, even though I loved it as a kid, just because I didn't want to play those full-length games. If I have a blowout lead at halftime, I want to just sim the rest of the game and just let it run its course. And I'm able to do that with Madden 11, really any of these on the PlayStation 2 after Madden 09. Obviously, this is a mainstay feature on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series console versions of Madden, but it's something that was new back on Madden 09. The two huge features, of course, in any Madden PlayStation 2 game from 2006 onward is going to be the Superstar mode as well as the Franchise mode. The Franchise mode is self-explanatory. You're getting to run your own team, but on the PlayStation 2, you get a ton more detail in terms of how you manage the team. You can control things like ticket prices, concession prices. You can really manage seemingly every aspect of the team in a much greater sense of control and detail that you don't have in the newer Maddens, as well as an overwhelming amount of customization. Really, you can even create just totally custom uniforms for your team, and I think that that's really cool to see. Some of these games had like create a fan, obviously create a stadium, so there's a ton to do in terms of creation in these older games, and that's the big selling point for playing Franchise back on the PlayStation 2. But the Superstar mode is really awesome because it kind of has features that we still have not seen in Face of the Franchise, even as they've introduced more and more things into the sort of Superstar mode that Face of the Franchise is now in the modern Maddens. But this was a very detailed experience. It had meaningful progression. You got to do things off the football field like you could even be in a movie. There was just a wide range of things to do, and even like say Madden 08 or Madden 09 on the Xbox 360, which had the Superstar feature, it just didn't quite live up to what we had on the PlayStation 2, and this feature continued to be brought forward all the way until Madden 12 closed things out on the PlayStation 2. But some of these back-of-the-box features from Madden 11 on the PlayStation 2 really got me excited, like the inclusion of the Wildcat mode in this game. Obviously, the Wildcat playbooks weren't up to speed. They weren't out yet in the NFL when Madden 08 came out, so that wasn't something that got copy-pasted forward since then, and it was something that was new here in Madden 11, at least according to the back of the box. Having not played Madden 10 on the PlayStation 2, I can't tell you if it was in there. But the biggest feature that I was excited to kind of revisit, and I think this started in Madden 08, was the Fantasy Challenge. This was something that only was on the PlayStation 2 era games. It didn't make its way forward to the newer consoles, though you could argue that it is very similar in kind of concept to what Madden Ultimate Team became. I think Madden Ultimate Team as a concept is very appealing, and if it wasn't so pay to win heavy, so power creep heavy, I would find it to be really enjoyable. I do find it to be moderately enjoyable, but I can't get into it very much. Fantasy Challenge on the PlayStation 2 in Madden 11, and I guess any of the prior ones like Madden 08, 09, 10, is awesome. Basically, you get to either choose to use the default team, your team's actual roster in the game, which isn't very exciting, or you can do a fantasy draft, 15 rounds, where you're going to select the players for your fantasy team. You're able to pick your quarterback, pick a couple running backs, some wide receivers, but then when you get onto defense, what you're actually drafting is position groups. So you would draft something like the Jets cornerbacks. They're going to be the most overpowered group of cornerbacks in the Madden 11 game. Then you're going to draft a group of linebackers. Maybe you want the Vikings linebackers. Maybe you want the Vikings defensive line. You're drafting in groups the same way you kind of would in actual fantasy football. So it's only 15 rounds. You get your entire team drafted, and then what actually happens is you go into a sort of league play where you're trying to battle your way through the newbie league. You move up to the next league, and sort of a ladder system as you try and move to the very top to ultimately beat the ultimate team at the top. And along the way, you're unlocking a ton of different content. Again, this is an offline game mode. You're unlocking fantasy stadiums, uniforms, things like that. But along the way, you're also going to get constant trade offers and different challenges where other teams in the league controlled by the AI are going to offer you players in trades. And the trades are all going to boil down to it's a player plus some points, and you can use those points to buy out other players because other teams can also offer to buy players off your team. For an offline game mode like this to have these sort of fantasy elements and employ this sort of use of content, it's a cool way to play football. This is a very complete football package with some rosters that I'm nostalgic for. I'm nostalgic for this era of the NFL and a lot of the players that were playing at this time. So I think in that respect, it's also very cool. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.